I really feel like using good judgment, you can really empower yourself to do a lot more. We talk about owning a business within a business, and if you truly own your own business, what are really the rules? So as long as you stay moral, legal, and ethical, obviously, and you're preaching the same message as your dealer.
This episode of Auto Dealer Live is brought to you by Auto Dealer University.
That's right. It's that time again. It's time for Auto Dealer Live. I'm here with Mr. David Cribbs. And then there were two.
Yeah. Obviously missing from the crew today is Mr. David Villa, but he'll be joining us. Well, he won't be joining us, but we'll be joining him. So we'll leave that as a little surprise for later. But got a jam-packed show.
Yeah, we got a ton of things we're going to talk about. We're also going to bring you guys into the mix and let you guys also pick some topics as we come to the year end here. I'm sure there's things on your mind that you like to bring up, and me and David are always good to bring those on the air and talk about them and sometimes debate them. So
yeah, you get to choose the news is the good thing. We're going to talk about some news that's come out regarding the auto industry, but you can also choose the news. We'll be monitoring social media and any topic you want to cover. Hey, maybe it's about, hey, going to make a move at the beginning of the year, right? Maybe it's about closing out your year. Maybe it's about that phenomenal, famous week after Christmas that seems to be the largest week in the car business. Maybe it's about some of the things we're seeing on social media. Some of the things I've seen recently is talk about, what makes a manager a manager. Some of the other things have been wrapped around promotion as an individual. I think we're getting to a point, Chris, where we're able to do a lot more individually sometimes, or not sometimes, but compared to what we had access to and ability to do in the past, now using social media, the things that we're able to create. I saw some posts regarding having an event as an individual in a store and what that looks like, and what that may look like for a dealer. Is it smart? Is it something that everyone should be doing? I really feel like using good judgment, you can really empower yourself to do a lot more. We talk about owning a business within a business, and if you truly own your own business, what are really the rules? So as long as you stay moral, legal, and ethical, obviously, and you're preaching the same message as your dealer, the point is that there should be no boundaries, no. Again, staying within the dealer's message, there should be limitless opportunity as far as exposure. What do you think?
I think that I'm totally on board with all that, except for the event. One person doing an event in the store. I guess, what does that look like?
Well, it could be anything. It could be anything. I mean, we start thinking about, I've talked a lot in the past on the show about different markets that we have an opportunity within our community. For example, the Uber market, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously a great market. In my opinion, very low-hanging fruit. There's some excellent ways to get right to Uber drivers. So maybe hosting an Uber event at your store, to me, that's something that makes sense. There's other things out there that, we'd spend more time getting into. But the point is, I think that we can become a little bit more creative in this day and age because, at the end of the day, for me, it's about driving traffic to your business and then executing. I think if you can obviously, if you can pull those off, you're gonna be doing pretty well, and that's individually and corporately. I think we have that responsibility now. I think that's what dealers now are going to be looking for in the future, are the personalities that can do that individually, so that corporately it adds up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I guess when I ask, well, what does that look like? I mean, they're not holding a special, promotion where they're giving more off of a car than the other guy in the store.
Well, no, you can't do that.
That's what I was concerned about when you
don't want to start competing, trying to outprice each other, right, or outbid each other. No, nothing like that.
That would be kind of an awkward situation, using the same sales manager, but two guys in your own store bidding.
I've seen some Jeep dealers that are located inland. I've seen where their stores are set up like a beach outside, and they have beach. They literally have beach parties at their store. They have big Jeep rallies. But I got to say, hey, if you're at a Chrysler Dodge Jeep store, man, you've got an opportunity with the Jeep crowd. They're like they're what Saturn wanted to be, right? Mm-hmm. In the sense of having this cult type following. And now with the new Jeep products that are out, the new truck, just a huge audience there that are really committed. So if you're at a Jeep store, maybe it's time to have some Jeep events.
Well, it's interesting you said that because they have like their own built-in audience, and when you look across the landscape of the automotive industry, I think when you look at brands as a whole, you see that the brand loyalty is way down. From
a million percent.
But then when you go and look at individual cars, like the Wrangler itself, that's a different story. Those people are a lot more loyal than any of the other buyers. Like,
absolutely.
They might have a Wrangler, but they might have a second car, but they keep their Wrangler. You know what I mean? Or they're getting another Wrangler. So I love that idea. That's a great idea, especially with the Wrangler group.
Yeah. So the thing is, how creative can you be? What have you seen? I want to welcome Brad Smith is watching. Douglas Chitrin is watching. Mike Phillips is watching. Going to be speaking, by the way, at the 2020 Vision Conference in Vegas in March, I believe. Mike will be. Hey, listen, if you're watching the show, let's talk about what creative have you been able to do at a store when it comes to driving traffic in. Could be an event, could be virtually anything. What do you see someone else doing that's really successful, and what do you think might be a good idea? And it's kind of,
what is maybe something that you used to do that you can't do anymore that you thought was a good idea?
Oh, now that's a good one.
Because there's a lot of things that we were, 20 years ago we could get away with. We can't get away with anymore.
Yeah. Have you been told no? Have you got the little spanking? Right?
Yeah.
Have you been told no? Now, I mean that in a serious note. Are you at a store where maybe you have an idea, you think it's great, but maybe not so much from the leadership at the store. Now, it doesn't mean the leadership at the store is wrong, but why don't you present the idea? You have an opportunity here on our forum. That's the great thing about Auto Dealer Live is anyone can chime in and basically, have their voice heard. So we're going to be sneaking out in a few minutes to kind of do a little sneak attack on Dave Villa, our host. In fact, we may speed that up because Lou's telling me that it might be a good time to sneak out real quick. So, Chris, I'm going to hop out there. I'm going to disconnect.
You're going to disconnect.
I think I'm going to lose my audio, but Lou's got something set up where we can capture Dave's maybe.
Right.
So I'm gonna jump out there real quick.
All right.
I'll see you guys in a minute.
So
right?
David Cribbs here
I'll be on camera, I think.
Is stripping down his cores.
Merry Christmas, by the way. Is it our Christmas episode, by the way? Is that next week? Is that before?
How is that? It's the day after Christmas. How you do a Christmas episode the day after Christmas?
Come on, Lou. All right, here we go.
Ridiculous.
Let's go see what Dave's up to.
It's like that commercial that I occasionally see with the guy with the hearing aids. He goes, "It's just ridiculous." I don't know. Have you all seen that? Am I the only person? I don't know why that commercial absolutely irritates me.
Hey, can I grab Eric Wicklum, please?
So they are. You might be able to hear. What's up, David? I think he is getting ready.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Get on a TO here or something.
Hey, man, listen. I'm getting ready to have a dealer pick up the phone, so I'm going to talk to him instead of you when he does. But just out here doing my thing, man. And I would not miss the show if it weren't important. But I'm out here helping the guys close out the year. Listen, if you're not helping your people, man, you need to get out. Listen, you managers need to get behind the desk, put the green Sharpie down, and help your guys, man. Come on, that's the way to do it right there. Lead from the front, not from the back. Not from the back. Lead from the front, man.
Man's closing what?
Closing deals. I'm calling in Alabama right now. Hello?
So, I guess you're getting shots of the
Hey, can I
sales
grab?
room.
I got disconnected. I was holding for Eric Wicklund. Thanks.
And they're back as David Cribbs plugs back in.
That was fun. I've never done that before. Not sure. Not sure it's going to make the highlight reel.
Jerry, you need me to jump on?
But hey.
Can we kill David though?
I'll just see if you need me to jump on.
Not Cribbs, Villa. There you go.
David Villa.
Awesome.
Mike Phillips says lead from the front. Hashtag the front. I'm sure he was talking about David Villa there. And, that's the thing. I will share with you, we walk in here at 3:30, literally, Chris, as you know. Usually it's like literally right at the minute where we're coming in. I had just gotten off of a call and we closed the deal. That was fantastic.
Nice.
Dave is out, but this is the thing. Dave is out there. Man, he's one of the few CEOs of a major business, right? that's having such success, and yet he is on the front line. Mike Phillips said lead from the front. He's right there on a phone call with a dealer looking to close a deal, but most importantly, looking to help dealers move forward. That's what this show's all about. It's nothing but serving the dealer. We talk to the best of the best, and we have an amazing audience and following, and I appreciate everyone for that. A couple things. We mentioned earlier, Chris, that, hey, you get to choose the news. If you see something, thinking of something that you want to talk about as a subject matter on Auto Dealer Live, could be something that maybe to do with this last week coming up, the week of Christmas, could be what your goals or vision are for 2020. What do you think has to change? What do you think needs to go away? Anything at all that you want to talk about today, it's wide open. So this is an opportunity. We'll definitely get to your comments and make certain that we are addressing that. So Chris, anything you want to share before I get into a couple other newsworthy items?
No, go right ahead. Let's jump in.
Okay, well, let's talk about, speaking of 2020, I'm sorry? Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go to a quick commercial break. We'll go to a quick commercial break. We'll come back. This will give you the opportunity to come up with anything you'd like to. And by the way, I'm going to throw out the phone lines because you can call in today, 813-574-1820. 813-574-1820. Call into the show. We'll get you on. We'll talk automotive, and we'll be right back after these messages.
This is Tom. Tom is shopping for a pre-owned vehicle. Tom wants to make a smart decision on his vehicle purchase, so he's made sure to review the vehicle's history report and compare prices with similar vehicles. He knows purchasing the wrong vehicle can be an expensive mistake, but what Tom doesn't know is that there is a lot more to a pre-owned vehicle than just the history report and price. The process of vehicle reconditioning, preparation, and research is different at every dealer, and the quality of that reconditioning has a major impact on a vehicle's safety and value. Tom should be shopping at dealers who use Auto iPacket, a digital document folder that has everything he needs to know about a pre-owned vehicle all in one place. Every complete Auto iPacket includes a vehicle history report, mechanical inspections, reconditioning receipts, manufacturer equipment breakdown, and factory warranty information. Reviewing the Auto iPacket allows Tom to know for certain that he is purchasing a safe, properly reconditioned, and well-equipped pre-owned vehicle from a trustworthy and transparent dealer. Purchasing a vehicle without all the proper documentation is risky business. There is more to a pre-owned vehicle than a history report and price. Let us show you. Ask for an Auto iPacket at a reputable dealer near you.
Hey, and we're back. You're watching Auto Dealer Live. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, on social media, we have Kevin Campbell's watching. Our friend Kevin Campbell, great to see you. Calvin Pierce up in Canada says, hi, ladies and gentlemen. And Joshua Thomas Mitchell burning it up. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, we're talking today. First of all, it's Choose the News. So you can choose a topic if you want to weigh in. You can also call in. We'll try to get you on the air, 813-574-1820. We're going to talk about a few more things. You can talk about anything you want as far as weighing in on social media or calling in. So, Chris, a couple of articles as we waltz into 2020, baby.
We're dancing.
We're waltzing into 2020. Look, Automotive News has some bad news for us.
What's that?
It's devastating. It's devastating.
Apparently,
we're going to be off in 2020 when it comes to car sales. The good news is you get to determine that on your own as to whether or not you want to participate in that decline, because Automotive News says that sales are slated to fall to 16.8 million in 2020. We have been, it's no secret that we've been riding a wave for many years. I mean, we are in the heyday of the auto business. You know, it does come and go in cycles, and when you've been around as long as some of us have, you've seen a lot of those waves, right? But we have been on a wave, and we've been very fortunate. The economy is going on strong, but the pent-up demand is maybe starting to decline just a bit. 16.8 million, but here's the thing. A lot of the fleet sales are up. We're seeing a booming economy, which means that industry is doing well, means that there's going to be demand in the business sector, which we're seeing. So private, individual buyers, consumers, we're seeing a little bit more of a decrease. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out.
I have a little prediction here.
Yes.
I think I don't think I think NADA, which is where this statistic came from, says that sales are going to slow again next year. I see sales starting off slow, but then towards the end of the year, I see a increase, and I think the next year, 2021, might be one of the biggest in the automotive industry.
I'm throwing
it out there. The reason I say that is because we've got new trade deals that have finally gone through. I think
you're a pretty smart dude, by the way.
I think you're going to start to see the overall cost of vehicles being made go down a little bit, which will actually relieve some of the pressure from the manufacturer and the dealership standpoint. Mm-hmm. So I think 2021 is going to be huge.
We have seen a willingness for manufacturers to they've stepped up incentives late in the year here to another high.
Plus, things always are usually slow during a election year, which 2020 is an election year. So,
yeah. Well, one of the things I will credit you with, so we'll take that prediction with some weight, because one of the things I will credit you with is you do stay much more on top of global economy, and you're obviously own a marketing company as well as being entrenched in the auto world. So definitely give you a lot of credit for that. It would not surprise me if your prediction is on the money. We're also seeing something now. One of our other marketers here within our company, Mikey Akendo, in fact, is our marketing manager here at IPD. He brought these articles to me. Another one is from Automotive News, Asbury, which, this has been out for a little bit, but Asbury to buy luxury dealerships from Park Place to the tune of $1 billion, right? $1 billion. But they're picking up 17 new vehicle franchises, 10 dealerships. And here's the thing about it is, one of the things that Mikey brought to my attention in this article is that it talks about the fact that during little downturns, that the luxury market isn't taking as big of a hit. So there's a little bit more stability in that market right now as we move forward. It's, there's the old saying, the rich get richer. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but when the economy is booming, it certainly does seem that way. Which is great. We are in a capitalist society, so I believe in that.
Well, what's interesting about that is years ago we were in a economic decline. And I was in a Lexus store at the time, and I went from a traditional Chevy store to a Lexus store, and I was shocked at what I saw. Night and day from the Chevy store, meaning that our business really was not affected by the downturn of the economy. What I noticed was more people were paying cash for cars than what had previously happened the year before. Mm-hmm. And some of that was for tax purposes. But there's a lot of people all of a sudden start spending cash to avoid taxes. They're not making as much money. I know it sounds crazy, but then they'll spend the cash to avoid paying more taxes. Yeah. So it actually, in the long run, saves them money, even in a downturn economy.
Yeah, that is interesting how that works. But yes, apparently the luxury brands feel it a little bit less. Plus, the last few years, as our economy has been booming, and yes, we've been on a wave, but it's been the luxury brands that have also had the biggest increase in the last few years. So that's something significant to look at. I'm sure.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the economy too. I mean, people are making more money today than they were, 5-6 years ago, and so all of a sudden people that would normally drive a Hyundai or a Honda or a Chevy all of a sudden can step into that lower end Lexus or Acura or Cadillac or whatever it is.
And those who were driving the Lexus and the Acuras are moving up to the Range Rovers and the
moving on
Maseratis. And, when am I going to get one of those? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm getting ready to get a Schwinn. So
you're going to get a Schwinn?
No.
I'm thinking about a Honda, the little Honda scooter. That's probably me. But hey, let's take a look at social media again. We've got Melissa Sigmund has jumped in. Jay Lasco. If you're not a nationwide auto group, those numbers are worthless. Your region should be up or down versus the nation at any time. So many factors make your own market. Well, that's the part I like, Jay, is that we talked about, hey, you get to make the decision as to if you're going to participate if you're reading into those numbers are down, right? And Jay's right on. Look, there's, depending on your market, is gonna could be completely different story from what you're seeing on a global or national level. But the big point is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do the rest of the year and into 2020?
In case in point to talk about it, I just read an article about the hottest real estate markets in the country. In a few of the hottest real estate markets in the country, well, I think Tampa's like 19th or 20th on the list, but like one of the top 5 is someplace in South Dakota. And that tells you that all of a sudden there's some kind of economic boom going on there. So halfway across the country, you might not be seeing it, but then in that market, guess what? They're going to sell more cars. There's more people moving into the market. So, case in point to what he was saying. Own your market. Know your market.
No question about it. Not only own your market, but let's look at ways. We're seeing dealers that are going and just basically plucking business out of other markets, right? They're going outside of their PMA with huge success. We talk about stores like, Dan Cummins Chevrolet selling 1,000 cars a month in a town of 9,600. Speaking of Jay Lasco, we have Matt and Jay Lasco up in Michigan, Flint, Michigan, and or Fenton, Michigan. They probably want to kill me if I say Flint. But Fenton, Michigan, right? A smaller town, but yet they're producing numbers that go beyond just what you would normally see maybe just inside of Fenton, right? They're hitting numbers that are getting national recognition. So so you can make your own market. We have another dealer that just contributed to Auto Dealer University that here in a smaller town, it's not a tiny town, but it's a smaller town in Florida. We've got a Chevy dealer, and then right down the road, not too far, we have a Ford dealer. Both stores hovering around that 50 to 60 car a month for years. All of a sudden, new team comes in, new mind, new concept, right? New ideas, and they didn't reinvent the wheel. They just got a little excitement going on, right? Little woo-woo up in the store, right? And on social media, and took a store that's doing 50 to 60 to over 200 in 90 days, baby.
Wow.
In 90 days. Can you imagine being the owner of that store sitting on 50 to 60 cars a month for years, and then in 3 months you hire someone new and they're over 200? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd be taking them to dinner every night. I'd be like, when they arrive at work, I'd be like, "What would you like, sir? Would you like a steak? What would you like?" But just imagine. But the point is, when we see things like that, when we say things like, if that doesn't light a fire under you and go, "Hey, this is something that we didn't think was possible." The dealer that was here before, or the GM or the GSM or whoever the regime was that was here before didn't see it. The people down the road don't see it. And yet someone walks in and totally turns everything around.
It just goes to show you there are opportunities in every market. You just got to find what it is.
Yeah.
And saying in your market doesn't necessarily mean literally in your backyard. It could be outside of your backyard. But getting creative and being able to hit those different markets and bring people in, that's the battle.
When I talk to stores sometimes, this is really funny too. We'll talk about this. I want you to weigh in on this on social media. But we talk to stores occasionally that say, "You know what, man, we're a 300 car a month store, man. We're good. We don't need a lot of extra stuff, man. We're running on all cylinders, man. We're hitting it out of the park. We've been selling 300 cars for the last 5 years." Well, okay. I don't know how to take that. I think about, there's a store that's not too far from us, about an hour away, that was on top of their region for a long time, selling, 400 cars. And someone new came in, took over, and all of a sudden they were selling 700. Well, at 400, you couldn't have convinced the team that was there, that was killing it, in their mind. You couldn't have convinced them that there was, that you could go to that level. And almost overnight it happened, even with a store that was performing. So it's very interesting, and this, I put on social media the other day, I checked into John Marazzi's store over here at Brandon Honda. And I will share this, how refreshing it was to walk into his store, because, one of the things that I think that we lack is in our dealership world is creativity. We've been doing the same thing for so long. Everything kind of looks the same at most stores. But when you walk into a store and it looks different, it feels different. The facility's different, right? And I know we're moving toward more modern looks and things like that. But when you have and not every dealership necessarily can pull this off from a budget standpoint, at least at first. But when you walk in and there's a huge cafe, and you can go in there and order food, actual food, inside the showroom, right? And then the waiting area is actually in the showroom, which fills the showroom, by the way, with buzz. But most of the time, the lounge is over in the parts area or the the service area, where it's kind of tucked away. But there's a waiting area in the showroom, and it's not. It looks like when you go in a movie theater. It has the theater seats. They lean back. They do that. They got the cup holder, right? And there's a big screen TV in front of them. And it's set up for success, just the feeling when you walk in, right? And you could walk in there as a customer and feel like the showroom's buzzing. There may not even be another customer in there. It might all be service and people that are coming in. You don't know, right? And then as you move through the service area, there's all types of different like kiosk and things that are kind of calling out to you to get your car appraised and to get an offer and to do this and to that. It's pretty cool. It's very interactive. There's a lot of buzz. It feels completely different than walking in another store. So if I'm walking in as a consumer, I'm thinking, wow, this place is legit. And of course they are. They sell a number of cars there. But what a difference in walking in one place and another.
I would imagine the attitude of the employees is different too.
Oh my
than
gosh.
Most stores.
It's crazy, it's funny because this is what I did. I was kind of observing, right? So I walked in and they also participate in our training. And when I walked in the front door, I was in jeans and a t-shirt, kind of incognito. And I walked in and there was three gentlemen standing up near the front ready to serve customers that were coming in. And one of them recognized me right away. He's like, "Oh man, great videos and whatnot." I was like, "Thank you, man. I'm just going to get something to eat." So I went over and I sat incognito in the lounge area and I just ate my food. But the thing that was really cool was that I noticed there were 3 or 4 salespeople that were mixing themselves in and out of that cafe area right there in the showroom. And they were talking to the customers that were sitting there, with their coffee or with their paper or eating. And it was just so cool because they were able to kind of touch base with them. I saw a couple of them take photos with them. It was very interactive, and of course, they all asked, "What are you doing here today? Are you getting your car? What's going on with your car?" All this, right? They're creating opportunities.
You mean they were running the other way?
No, they weren't. In fact, and here's the thing though. Here's the lesson, I think. And again, we all have physical challenges in the facility, but the point there is that in this particular setup, in this particular environment, they didn't have to go. If you walk back, if you have a totally separate service area, and most dealerships do, but it's more challenging if you don't have something for sales set up in there, because when you walk back, you're kind of going into a different territory, right? And you're walking into kind of a colder environment, even with customers waiting, and it's not exactly natural to just kind of walk in and start chatting, right? Other people can hear you. It's usually quiet in there in the waiting room, things like that. But here it's all buzz. People are roaming around. The salespeople belong in the showroom, so it's just natural that they would be there right next to it in the cafe as well, walking through. So I just think it's an incredible, cool system.
That's awesome. I haven't been there in I think a couple years now, so maybe I need to stop by and see it.
And they gave me for breakfast steak and eggs.
Okay, so Lou, our producer, just said that he walked into Brandon Honda and bought his wife a Jeep, and
I got steak and eggs.
And he got steak and eggs for breakfast there at the store. But hey, here's the deal. We see different places like that in different parts of the country. But the idea is, what can we do? If we don't have the resources or facility to facilitate that, what's the next step? What are you going to do? Where are you going to start? By the way, because we're moving into 2020. We're closing out 2019. We talked about it when we first came on the show, Chris, about being creative and the fact that we can be creative now as individual salespeople, right? We can get a lot of attention, especially with social media, right? We can reach more people than we could ever do before, and at a very low cost. And it's a matter of, hey, how creative can you become in your store? And do you feel like you can be creative in your store? That's something else you may want to weigh in on.
I was going to say, the one thing that, and I mentioned it for a reason, was, a different mentality, a different mindset of the people that actually work at the store. I think it all starts there. Before you can even get creative, you got to really get your people on board and get them thinking differently.
Well, here's the good news is that we're eventually, right, the old way of thinking is it's going away each day, right?
Sure.
It gets a little further away from us. And it doesn't mean that this is, by the way, this isn't an age thing, right? You could be 85 and you could be on the cusp, right? You could be on the edge and be modern. But the point is the old way of thinking and the limit of thinking of we can only do it this one way is fading away. And now we're seeing not only as we go on time, obviously a shift in more of the market buying a different way. But it gives us opportunity to now to leverage that, to embrace it, right? To say, hey, I see some things changing here in the marketplace. Let me get in there and rip it apart in a good way, right? Let me leverage what we can out of this movement and drive more traffic into our store, create a better experience, and leave with a better result, right? So, and maybe you're in that position in a store where you have that mindset, but maybe those above you may be limiting you. So maybe, hey, I'm not for chasing you away from a store. The grass is not always greener on the other side, but there are occasions where we have to make decisions. Maybe that's what's going on with you for 2020, moving into 2020. Are you planting seeds now? Whether and even if that's not the case, obviously that's only going to be a few. But for those of you who know where you're at, know what you're doing, and know what you want to do, what are you going to do? Are you planting the seeds now for 2020, and what does it look like? I don't know if it's funny because when I share this, I don't get all the comments on mine. I have to go flip over. But anyway.
But what's interesting with that is it could be too. Thinking about 2020, it could be, and this comes from me talking to a friend of mine a few months ago, who was in a store for almost 8 years and just was burned out. Not with the automotive industry, burned out with the store. They had some changing in management and different things like that. And so he ended up leaving and went to another store, new brand and everything. He wanted to start fresh and start over again and he's killing it. But it goes back to, where you want to be next year. What are your goals for next year? What's the mentality of going into that? And for him, it was, he felt like he was in a rut where he was at, and it was time to make a change. So he made a change. And
well, I think if you feel like you've done all you can personally, look, we got to look in the mirror 99% of the time, right?
Sure.
So if we've looked in the mirror and we've really been honest with ourselves and self-examined, and we're being limited on what the next phase looks like, then by all means, man, you've got to keep moving and progressing in this world, right? I can't see all the social media comments. Lou or Matthias, can you read some of those off? By the way, you can call in. It's not too late to call in if you want to. 813-574-1820. 813-574-1820. You can call in. Brian Thompson, I saw that one, said exactly. Not sure which comment he was referencing because we have a 7-second delay as well. But Lou is going to sign in and make sure that we get all the comments
to
read.
make me feel better. Let's just say it was something I said. Exactly.
It was something.
Just to make me feel better. Right?
Whatever Chris said,
whatever.
It was like a high five, Chris.
I appreciate it.
You
See,
nailed
I feel
it,
better
brother.
already.
Man, you killed it.
You the man.
It actually is probably what you said, but just to make me feel better.
But hey, let's go back to an example of we've mentioned him on the show before, but I can't help it. Sean Hayes, now a managing partner at a I believe it's Colonial. I want to say it's Colonial Chevy, but a managing partner now, and it was only a couple of years ago that I remember seeing Sean for the first time on social media. Not that he wasn't there before, but I saw him on social media, and he was selling. And but what really brought him to the surface and got so many eyes on him within the industry was that he was helping other salespeople, right? He was coaching other salespeople for free, sharing knowledge, creating a great following within this auto industry. And it wasn't long before not only did he have a following, but when you create a following, maybe that's your customers, your client, your niche, right? When you create a following, whatever that following is, all of a sudden, there's a value to that. There's a stock that comes along with that. And before you know it, Sean was offered a position at a huge store, Dan Cummins Chevrolet, and then promoted through some ranks, and then, of course, now recently a GM and managing partner of a very successful store. So the point to that story is, man, if that doesn't get you fired up as to opportunity, I compare that on an individual basis to what we talked about corporately earlier with someone coming in and taking a store from 50 cars a month for years up to over 290 days, right? So a similar story, but on an individual level. So that would get me fired up as an individual. Let's see. Brian Thompson said, someone who has a vision and the person above you doesn't. It was Cribbs. Oh, he gave me credit. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm really.
So why'd you have to do that? You
I
just
feel really
literally
bad.
peed in my cornflakes.
I didn't do it. It was on social media.
You did. You didn't have to say it.
So, Brian Thompson says it's a struggle when you know that you have. Oh no, that's. Oh no! Oh yeah, that's a different comment. It's a struggle when you know that you have the vision to change and redirect in a positive way, and to create a culture that would change your market, and someone else doesn't. It's hard. We talk about this all the time. You're absolutely right, Brian. We had a whole event here recently on Culture Matters. Dealers from all over the country flew in, and we had an event that surrounded culture. And we talk about culture as a buzzword. Some people may be even tired of hearing about it, but the bottom line is culture is nothing more than the feeling that your store distributes to not only its employees but its customers, right?
Yeah.
That's just how I see it in a nutshell.
Like you, I mean, you walked into Brandon Honda and you felt it instantly.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what we're talking about when we talk about culture. That's what it is right there.
That's exactly what it is, and it is difficult. I mean, we talk to dealers all over the country, and we have some young leaders in great positions that are fired up, but it's a struggle to get when you think that way, when you're progressive. It is a struggle, even if you're in charge. Brian, we'll go back to Brian in that comment. Even if you're in charge, it can be very, very challenging to get the buy-in and get everybody thinking the same way, and everyone is motivated to do what you want to do.
It doesn't even have to be the people in the store. It could be the outside influences, your competitors, your friends that work at other dealerships or in your ear. It's like, you can't do that. You're nuts. And
right.
There's so much outside influence from our own dealerships that affects what we do in dealerships that we shouldn't just pay attention to.
Yeah, and I was probably a little bit when I ended that last comment, I kind of wanted to expand because it seems a little narrow focus when I say. It almost sounded like I said, hey, you got to get everybody to think the way you think, right? It's not, I don't need Chris to be Dave or Dave to be Chris. Each of us have our own, goals, our own whys, our own thing. The thing is tapping into that and getting everyone at their capabilities, right? And getting them in a role that they actually feel purpose and they now want to perform and get results. And if we can figure that out, then corporately we're going to do great, right? Starts individually and then corporately it all wraps up together. So, hey, you still have a chance to call in 813-574-1820. We will try to get you on the line. I think we had 2 callers earlier that were unfortunately missed. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. We walked out earlier and interviewed with Dave.
Y'all literally, if you're just now joining the show, offset. David Cribbs literally walked off set, but not in anger.
Sometimes you just got to drop the mic. And in my case, I dropped the earphones and everything else. And we went out and saw Mr. Dave. Hey, real quick, for those of you who are tuned in right now, let's talk about your 2020 and what it looks like. Let's talk about your goal. What are you going to do differently in 2020? What's the one thing that you want to achieve? Because we're only going to have one more show prior to 2020. But I want to know, what is it that you're going to put into play? Do you have something right now that you could say, hey, 2020, this is non-negotiable. This is something that I will put into play. This is something that I'll attain. This is a practice that I'm going to pursue. Whatever that looks like for you, please weigh in on social media or give us a call. What about you, Chris? What would you say is the one thing for 2020? And we'll probably move to Lou.
Well, it's funny I said it because it just hit me when I literally just said it and wasn't even thinking about this until you just asked that question. Outside influences. I think in 2020, I need to do a better job of letting outside influences dictate what I do in my own company. And it's not always a negative, but sometimes it's not what I want to do, but because
when you say outside influences, are you talking about other companies, the market? What are you talking about?
The market. There's all kinds of things that we pay attention to that sometimes you just need to block all that stuff out and just focus on what your goal and what your vision is. I think sometimes we let other people affect that by, we see someone having success doing this, so maybe we change what we're doing to try and kind of model that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we suffer from right now in sales in general, not just within the auto industry, but I've seen it in other industries right now, is in this new wave of both technology and opportunities and different, we see startup companies everywhere. We just see all these different ways to do things now, right? Or to get results, or get this lead or find out and do this, do that. Here's what I would share with you as big of a fan as I am of getting attention and driving traffic so that you can create opportunities. I think that we get a little bit too much focused on that because that's, in my opinion, that's the easier work than actually staying in front of a customer. And I feel like, you know, if I ask the question, Chris, who is the best, I'm going to ask you right now, who do you feel is the best number one sales trainer in the country?
Oh, jeez.
It's easy. I'm right over here, Chris. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I was going to say Dave Cribbs.
Well, there you go. You're a winner. But you would, as much as I would love that response, you would have been wrong because I really feel like, you know, I always ask that question. You get different names. Oh, Dave Villa, Grant Cardone, Brian Tracy, you know, Zig Ziglar, all these big names that we hear, right? But ultimately, what I would say is this: your customer is your best trainer. The customer is the best trainer. We talk about, we've heard the, hey, everyone's from Mike Tyson, hey, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the nose. We talk about how NFL teams, you know, practice. Like they watch film. They want to see what every single player individually is moving, how they're moving, where they're moving based on where the ball in the play and all that stuff, right? And you watch that for hours. You would think that you could pull off everything flawlessly, but yet when the whistle blows, you're in the game, right? It's in the heat of the battle. We role play before we get on the phones, but when we get on the phone, all of a sudden, it's the real deal, right? It's game time. Right. The point is, if you really break down and you're honest with yourself about how much time you spend getting ready just to talk to someone or getting ready to not talk to someone in some cases, right? Little call reluctance, little whatever. The point is that if you really want to see progression, if you know, there's time for training and role playing and all of that, and you know, there's no bigger fan of that than us as a company, myself individually, but corporately as well. But the point is that when you're in front of the customer, man, that's when you get schooled. That's when you get schooled. And I think that if I would say anything for 2020, if I had anything that would be encouraging to someone, is spend your time in front of customers. Not only will you get better, but if you're with a customer more often, you're going to get better. You're just going to get more results because we all know it's a numbers thing as well. So that would be my encouragement. What are you going to do for 2020? We got Melissa Sigmund in, Mike Phillips jumped back in, but go ahead. But Lou, hey, wait, Lou, come over here for a minute, please, if you would. I'm sorry, I don't mean to like direct you, but please come over. Can you? Are you in camera?
No, but I'm next to you.
Can you get in camera? Oh, let me scooch it a little. Here, I'll even put the mic. Tell us what you're going to do different for 2020, brother.
I'm actually going to join that 3%.
What's that?
3% people write their goals down. And I have never been the type of person to write goals. So this year, I started. I'm going to write all my goals out for 2020.
Awesome. Man, that's killer. So, you know, and that's the thing. Are you writing your goals? You know, what's funny, what's crazy about what Lou just said more than anything, Chris, is 3%. I thought he was talking about like a gym or something he was joining. There's 3%, you know, whatever. No, I'm just saying, I thought that's what you were talking about. I thought that's what you were talking about. But 3%, I'm not even sure I knew that statistic, but only 3% write their goals down. To me, that is like, that seems wild, right?
Yeah. It does seem wild, especially. You know what? I bet it's actually lower than that now, because we don't. I mean, I have to catch myself and how bad my hand. I mean, he was bad before, but I don't write much anymore because of computers and phones, and so I bet it's even less than that now.
Okay, so one of the things that Justin Jarek, who was a gentleman I referred to earlier, GSM I'm sorry.
He was one of the motivations of my.
Oh, he was one that motivated Lou to make that commitment.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, because he was here filming some spots in Auto Dealer University and spoke with our team. But he's a gentleman that's a GSM at the store I referred to earlier that went from 50 cars a month to over 200 in 90 days. But here's one of the cool things, and the whole goal writing thing brought me back to this because, you know, it's one thing to do something, and it's another thing to take it to another level. And that's what we all have the creative opportunity to do, and we are the most creative people, in my opinion, in this industry that we're in. But Justin not only writes down his goals every day, but guess where he writes them down, Chris?
In his phone.
No. Guess where else? He probably does, but guess where he physically does his goal writing every morning?
In the mirror?
Probably does it there too. Probably does it all over. He's probably a graffiti artist. But, but on a serious note, he writes them down in front of his entire staff every morning.
Oh.
Come on, baby. Now, that is leading by example, but he writes them down. He gets there and writes them with or without the team, but as the team is showing up, he's writing down his goals. So they see him every day practicing what he's talking about. To me, that is a game changer. By the way, that's how we just talked about that. How do you get people thinking differently? How do you get your team on board? How do you have the right thing? Maybe you're going around saying, come on, everybody, do this, do that, do this, do that, because you're fired up, right? But maybe that's not that effective. Maybe just doing some things, right? He takes them out every morning. I talk about this in ADU as part of your daily routine. First thing you do when you walk into a store, in my opinion, as a salesperson, which served me well, is walk that lot every morning, every single morning, because you got to know it's a time efficient thing when you get a customer that is a time issue, so you know right where to go, right where the cars are every day, because they change every day, and you know what came in, you know what your solution cars are, things like that. But the point is, he goes out every day, goes live on social media, which is another reason they have a big turnout there, but goes live on his lot walk with his team. But he initiates it every single morning. And I know that there are many of you out there that do, but the point is, if you're not, man, that is just a daily routine that should be in place.
I used to piss off my salesman because we would have lot parties every morning.
Lot party is different than a lot.
Every morning. Well, I say a lot party, but that's what we called it. It was a lot party.
I know what it is.
Every morning.
It's a negative.
We'd go out to the used car side and we would rearrange the cars every morning. Now, when I say that, we're not moving 150 cars. We're moving, the ones that people can actually see from the road.
Sure.
But the reason behind that was not to move new cars around. It was also to get familiar with the cars. Make sure they start, make sure, the little things.
Right, sure.
It was more than just moving the cars around. It was about actually getting familiar. And lo and behold, you'd find salespeople are like, I didn't know this car had this. This is cool. And then all of a sudden they would sell it. They get excited. They would get excited because they were actually in the car themselves.
Yeah. So what are you doing at your dealership, man? Are you having walk around contests on a regular basis? Are you doing product things within your showroom? Or are you doing that every 2 years when it seems like a good idea? That's the difference in a dealership that's just cruising along, or a dealership that is moving something every single day, has a purpose, is leveraging. I keep going back to that word. That's my word for 2020. Leverage everything you have to forward yourself in the business that you do. Where are we at time-wise, guys? We can start wrapping up. Good. Let's go to closing comments. We've got Brad Smith in saying hello to Calvin. Good afternoon, guys. Brad Smith. We've got Joshua Mitchell says, plan and manage my time plus BDC Raw event in March. That's what he's planning for 2020. Yeah, he's got a little self-plug in there, but I like that. We love that. We embrace that on Auto Dealer Live. This is a platform where we can share those things.
What was he plugging again?
He is plugging. Let's just make sure we plug it for him really well. Joshua Thomas Mitchell. If you're not following him, make sure that you are. Joshua is a rock star in this business, by the way. I can say that with conviction. Plan and manage my time. That was his thing for 2020. Plus the BDC, the Business Development Center, BDC Raw event in March. It's Raw, man.
Is it going to be like a WWF. SmackDown? That's what I was going to say. Is it going to be like a SmackDown?
It's Raw, baby.
I love it.
Or it could be like Eddie Murphy's thing. Maybe they're just going to swear the whole time. I don't know. It's going to be Eddie Murphy Raw.
I think it should be BDC SmackDown.
BDC SmackDown. Hey, man, I'm sure. You know what? I'm quite certain that it won't disappoint.
We should do that event, but not the way that he's doing it. We should do that event here, call it SmackDown, and have BDC members from around the country come in and fight.
Or we could just film our sales team every morning, because that's pretty much what goes down out there. But hey,
I'm just kidding.
We've had some fighters in here. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We had a blast today, even though Mr. Dave Villa, we'll throw a quick plug in for him. He's a best-selling author, Forbes contributor, absolute rock star, keynote speaker all over the country, always in demand, entrepreneur, self-made, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on. He's a good dude. And Chris, thank you so much, man. We'll just say it again. I think probably our regular viewers know this, but you are responsible for what we are seeing right now, which is Auto Dealer Live. It was your creative genius 8 years ago when you started this. and has evolved into something very special for not just for us personally who are, blessed to be a part of it, but for the whole auto industry. So we thank you for that.
No, thank you. I enjoy being part of it, and it's been a blessing just being a part of it. So
awesome. All right. Well, we are out. We'll see you next week here, the day after Christmas on Auto Dealer Live.
see ya.